So we are today doing Daf Lamed Tet Amud Bet, I believe. Yeah. So we are actually we're on the very, very top of Lamed Tet Amud Bet by Id Amri. So we had a machloket here, right? The Mishnah, just to recap, the Mishnah said that the mitzvah is for the oldest brother to do Yibum. If he doesn't want, we go to the next brothers, the younger brothers. If they don't want, then we go back to the first brother. And then we had two ways to learn that line. Either it meant that if the bigger brother doesn't want to do Yibum, we go to the next brothers to try to do Yibum. Or it meant that the brother doesn't want to do anything. But if he wants to do Chalitza, he would do Chalitza. That would be preferable than the younger brother's Yibum. We had a machloket about that. Okay, let's continue. So It Amri, some say that the machloket was a little bit different. Meaning the first way we presented the machloket, where it was a machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Right? So the way we presented the machloket, in the Lishna Kama, the first way we presented the machloket was we have two options. The older brother will do Chalitza, or the younger brother will do Yibum. What's preferable? So that was one version of the machloket. It Amri bebiya kulyam lo pligi debiyat katan adifa. So says the Gemara, we have in Ikad Amri a different version of the machloket that everybody really agrees that when it comes to biyah, when it comes to Yibum, everyone agrees it's preferable for the younger brother to do Yibum rather than the older brother doing Chalitza. Ki pligi bechalitzat katan. When are they arguing? What exactly is the machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi? They're arguing about chalitza of the younger brother. V'hachi itmar. This is the way the machloket is said. Chalitzat katan v'chalitzat gadol. Pligi ba Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. If the older brother wants to do chalitza and the younger brother wants to do chalitza, doesn't make a difference who does it. Machloket Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. Chad amar chalitzat gadol adifa. One of them says that chalitza of the older brother is preferable, meaning if chalitza is going to be done, the older brother should do it. The other one says, no, it doesn't make a difference. Only by Yibum is the older brother's mitzvah. But chalitza, it doesn't make a difference who does it. So that's machloket. So if we know chalitza is being done, is it better for the older brother to do it, or does it not make a difference? Machloket Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Mandar chalitza gadol adifa. The mitzvah gadol. The one that says chalitza of the gadol is better because it's a mitzvah for the gadol. V'idach ki amir mitzvah gadol le'inyan yibum. Aval le'inyan chalitza ka'adad ininu. The other one says no. When we say mitzvah is for the gadol, that's talking about when it comes to yibum, but not when it comes to chalitza. Okay, so machloket whether if you're doing chalitza, whether the older brother should do it, it's a mitzvah for the older brother, or no, it doesn't make a difference who does it. Tanan. Now the Gemara tries to bring a proof to one of the sides of this machloket from our Mishnah. It says, Lo ratzu chozrin etzel gadol. Said that if the younger brother, first you start with the older brother. If he's not interested, you go to the younger brothers. If the younger brothers are not interested, you go back to the older brother. So now, my lav lo ratzu liyabem ela lachlotz. Isn't the case that you went to the older brother, he said, no, I'm not interested in doing Yibum. Okay, so you go to the younger brothers, they say, no, we're not interested in doing Yibum. Okay, so then you go back to the older brother to do the Chalitza. Isn't that what our Mishnah is saying? So, Vekatani chozrin etzel gadol, shma mina chalitzat gadol adifa. It sounds like when the younger brothers don't want to do Yibum, they're interested in doing Chalitza, you still have to go to the older brother, so the older brother does the Chalitza. So it sounds like the mitzvah, even when it comes to Chalitza, the mitzvah is really mainly for the older brother. So the Gemara says, no, that's not how you learn the Mishnah. You can't bring a proof from the Mishnah that the older brother should do Chalitza. Lo ratzu lachlotz v'lo yabem. When it says that the brothers weren't interested, it doesn't mean that they weren't interested in doing Yibum, but they wanted to do Chalitza. It means that they weren't interested in doing anything. But really, if the younger brothers were interested in doing Chalitza, we would say, okay, do Chalitza. And the kavate gabiach gadol lo ratza lo lachlotz v'lo liyabem. And then the case would be that the beginning of the Mishnah, when they first go to the oldest brother, He says, no, I'm not interested in doing Yibum or Chalitza. Then they go to the younger brothers. They say, oh, we're not interested in doing Yibum or Chalitza. I don't have time for it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not interested. So then they go back to the older brother and they push the older brother. They force him to do it. Right? Ella, amai chozrin etzel gadol. So if that's the case, so then either way, why are they going back to the older brother? If you're telling me there's no difference when it comes to Chalitza, who does it? If the younger brother wants to do it, let him do it. So now that you have to force, also, why are you forcing the older brother? You could force any of them. Right? So, amai chozrin etzel gadol lemichpeh lichpaihu lekatan. They should force the younger brother. Meaning, what we're saying, according to this opinion, is when it comes to Chalitza, this opinion holds that it doesn't make a difference whether the older brother or younger brother does it. The younger brother wants to do Chalitza, let him do Chalitza, right? But we're saying when it comes to forcing, you have to force you go back to the older brother to force him. So why? So kevan de mitzvah ale dide ramya le dide kaifinan. So since the mitzvah is of Yibum really is mainly on the older brother, when it comes to forcing, we force the older brother. But in reality, if everybody wants to do Chalitza, it doesn't matter who does it. But if we have to force, so we're going to go to the older brother to force. Okay, Tashema. Tala, so we're still trying to bring proofs to either side in this machloket. So Tashema. Tala begadol ad sheyavo mimdinat hayam. So we had a case in the Mishnah that the brother said, listen, they went to one of the brothers to do Yibum and Chalitza. He said, no, I'm not interested. When my older brother comes, let's wait for him. He's out of town. He's going to come soon. When he comes, maybe he'll want to do it. So he said, let's wait for him to come back. Mimdinat hayam and shom'in lo. We don't listen to him and we don't wait. Now, says the Gemara, V'isal kadata chalitzat gadol adifa amay en shom'in lo. Nintar dilma'ati v'chalitz. Why don't we say, if you're telling me that the mitzvah, even when it comes to Chalitza, it's better for the oldest brother to do it, so then why don't we say, okay, we should listen to him. Let him wait for the older brother to come. Maybe the older brother is going to want to do the Chalitza. Why don't we wait? So the Gemara says, Ultamech, right? So you see that it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter who does the Chalitza. Right? It doesn't matter if the older brother or the younger brother does, because if it mattered, then we should wait for the older brother to come. So the Gemara says no. Ultamech bekatan ad sheyagdil en shomin lo. Well, according to what you're saying, how are you going to explain me? You're explaining to me the reason we don't wait for the older brother is because the Chalitza is the same whether the older brother or younger brother does it. So according to you, how are you going to explain why if he says I have a younger brother who's under bar mitzvah, let's wait for him to get older. Why don't we wait? Amai nintar dilma gadil umyavem. Why don't we wait for him to get older and do yibum, right? And the yibum is for sure better than chalitza, so we should wait in that case. There's no reason not to wait. So ella kol shui mitzvah lo shahinan. It must be the reason is because any waiting for a mitzvah, we don't push it off, we don't delay it, we don't wait. We do it right away. Okay, so basically we had in this version we had a machloket, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. What's preferable? Is it better to do yibum? Is it better to do for the older brother to do chalitza, or it doesn't make a difference? Or it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference who does it. So the Gemara tried to bring proofs back and forth, and we don't have a proof to one way at the end. Just this last proof, the Gemara explained that when it comes to a katan, we don't wait for him to get older. Why not? Because when it comes to the mitzvah of yibum and chalitza, we don't wait. Shehuye mitzvah lo shahinan. So you can't bring a proof from the fact that we don't wait for the older brother to come that it doesn't matter who does yibum. No, maybe really it does matter. Maybe really you are supposed to have the older brother, but when it comes to waiting for somebody, we don't wait around. But if all the brothers are here, then really you should better for the older brother to do yibum possibly. So either way, we don't have any clear proof. Okay, Tanan Hatam. The Gemara brings a Mishnah from someplace else and discusses it. It says mitzvat yibum kodemet lemitzvat chalitza. Yibum comes first. That's preferable. Which is you read the psukim in the Torah, that's what it sounds like. Barishona shehayu mitkavnin l'shem mitzvah. But that was in the beginning, in the earlier generations, when they had the right kavanah when they're doing yibum, and they really were doing it for the purpose of the mitzvah. Achshav she'ein mitkavnin l'shem mitzvah. But now that people don't have the proper kavanot, and that if someone is doing yibum, they're not doing it for the purpose of the mitzvah, they have other things in mind. Amru, the Chachamim said that mitzvat chalitza kodemet lemitzvat yibum. Chachamim said now it's better to do chalitza. So the Mishnah is teaching what?
Do people still do chalitza today?
Yeah.
Of course.
They did it in Iran a couple of months ago.
Yeah, of course.
Rabbi did it.
Yeah.
They do it in general, just.
No, they have special shoes. Rabbi, did you see the shoes he brought?
Yeah.
The special shoes you have to put it on.
When we get to that parak, 11th parak, or whatever, we describe the type of shoe and the process of how it's done. But either way, so what we're seeing over here.
In Baltimore too, not too long.
Yeah, there are cases every once in a while. Okay, but either way, so we're saying originally it was preferable to do yibum. That was when people, when the guy doing yibum had the right intentions and the right kavanot. But nowadays, the Mishnah, this Mishnah is saying, nowadays that people don't have the proper kavanot anymore. It's better to do chalitza.
You mean for yibum?
It's better not to do yibum, to do chalitza instead. To do chalitza and let her go marry somebody else, not to do yibum for the brother to marry his sister.
And even if the brother wants to do yibum,
so that's what it sounds like. That's what this Mishnah says. The Mishnah says it's better to do yibum than to do chalitza. I'm sorry, it was better to do yibum. Nowadays that people don't have the right intentions, it's better to do chalitza. So Amar Rav, Ein kofin. Rav says we don't force though. We don't force them to do chalitza. If they both want to do yibum, we let them do yibum. We don't, even though it's better to do chalitza nowadays, but we don't force them. We don't force them, yeah. So kiatuk lekame de Rav, when people would come to Rav for a case of yibum, Amar lehu ibait chalot, ibait yibem. He would tell them, listen, if you want to do chalitza, you do chalitza. If you want to do yibum,
whatever you want.
Yeah, if both the man and the woman are interested in doing yibum, you could do it. Right? Bedidach tala rachamana. The Torah made it dependent on you. Right? The pasuk says, Im lo yachpot aish. It says if the guy doesn't want to do yibum, then he does chalitza. Haim chafatz, ibai chalitz, ibai yavem. If he wants, he could choose. He could do chalitza or yibum. Va'af Rav Yehuda savar ein kofin. And Rav Yehuda also holds you don't force them to do chalitza. Midatkin Rav Yehuda begita de chalitza. We see from the fact that Rav Yehuda, they would give when a lady would get chalitza, just like if a lady's married, so she's becheskat eshedish. So she has to, you give her a get, she has to keep her get. Not only does the get make it that she's no longer married, but the get also is a proof that she's allowed to marry somebody else. It's a proof that she's free. So chalitza also, they would write some type of document to prove that the chalitza happened, that it's to show that she's now no longer connected to the family and she's free. So Rabbi Yehuda, he would atkin Rabbi Yehuda begid the chalitza. He in that document he instituted to write the following: Ech plonit bat ploni, ikravat yat ploni Yevamot kadmana lebedina. So the document says that this ploni bat ploni, this lady brought in front of us to Bedin ploni vishtamudinhu de'achua demitna me'abanihu, and she made it clear, she made it known that this man that she brought to Beit Din is her husband's brother that they share a father with. Right? So basically it's saying that this lady comes and she brings to Beit Din her husband's brother, that a brother, not that they share a mother with, but that they share a father with. Ve'amri le itzavit leyabem yabem. Ve'ilo So and they tell him that if you want to do yibum, do yibum. And if not, itla la raglach dimina. You should bring your right foot. Veitla la, and then he brings it to her. Ragla diamina. He brings her his right foot. Vesharat san'e, and she removed his shoe mal ragloi from his foot. Veyarakt, and she spit ban puhi. She spit in front of everybody. Roka demitchazia lebedina, a spit that was Beit Din saw it. Al ara, on the ground. So what do you see from here? Why are we bringing this? So this was the document that they would write. They would basically write a synopsis of what happened. Why is this important? Because he says that they would tell the guy, if you want to do yibum, do yibum. If you don't want to, then you bring your foot for her to take off. So it sounds like they gave the option to do yibum. Rabbi Chia bar Avia misayim ba mishum mishmei de Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Chia bar Abba would add one more line in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, that he would say ve'ekarinu ma dektiv besefer oraita, that we would read out what it says in the Torah, the Oraita de Moshe. It says in Torah Moshe, meaning they would read out the pasuk. I think Rashi says, "Im lo yachpot aish lakachat yevimto." Is that the pasuk that they would say? Lo chafatzi lakachta. Sorry, he would say for the pasuk, "Lo chafatzi lakachta." I don't want to take her as for yibu. Okay. Either way, in the document it said that she had to bring her husband's brother, and she had to make known that this was her husband's brother. So how do you make known? What does that mean? So ishtamadinhu, it says you have to. She makes known that this guy that she's bringing to Beit Din is her husband's brother. So pligi bar Rav Acha v'Ravina. Rav Acha and Ravina have a machloket about this. Chad amar be'edim. One says that she has to provide edim. We have to have witnesses that this is the brother of the met that's coming. V'chad amar afilu karov afilu isha. The other one says no, you don't need witnesses like two kosher witnesses. It could be a relative, it could be a woman, as long as somebody is there revealing that this is truly the brother of the husband, that's good enough. The brother of the guy who died, that's good enough. You don't need two kosher witnesses that have to be halachically kosher and not related to each other. You don't need all of that. V'hilchata, and the halacha is gilui milta ba'al mahu va'afilu karov va'afilu isha. It's just a gilui milta, which means it's just, we don't need halacha of witnesses. We don't need halacha of edut. It's a gilui milta, which means all we need is for something to become known, to be revealed, and for that, it's enough to have even a relative testify, even a lady testify, that this is the brother. Okay, next. So barishona, shehayu mitkavenin l'shem mitzvah, mitzvat yibum kodem lemitzvat chalitza, ve'achshav she'en mitkavenin l'shem mitzvah, amru mitzvat chalitza kodem lemitzvat yibum. Okay, so that's what we quoted from the Mishnah above, that originally, a long time ago, they used to have the right kavanot for yibum, so yibum was preferable. We would encourage yibum. Nowadays, that people don't have the right kavanot, we don't encourage yibum, we encourage chalitza. And which we said that, you could still let them do yibum, we don't force them to do chalitza, but either way, we don't encourage chalitza. Nowadays, chalitza is preferable. We don't encourage yibum, nowadays chalitza is preferable. By the way, there's a big machloket of, Rav Ovadia has a bunch of tshuvas on this, of, nowadays, what do we do? Based off of this Gemara that we're going to see soon. So, Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, says Rabbi Bar Chama, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Chazru lomar mitzvat yibum kodemet le mitzvat chalitza. He says that now, even later, they went back to saying yibum is preferable. So, it used to be at one point in time, if a case came up, yibum was preferable, we would urge the guy to do yibum. Nowadays, yibum is not preferable. We try to urge the guy to do chalitza. And then Rami Bar Chama says, and nowadays, nowadays we go back to pushing to do yibum. Nowadays we go back to yibum. So, what does that mean? So I'm saying we say it's preferable. Meaning it used to be we said Yibum is preferable. Then, the situation got so bad, we said no, Chalitza is preferable. Rami Bar Chama is saying, and now we say Yibum is preferable. So the Gemara says, Amar le Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Achshor Dore. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, what? The Dorot, the generations became more kosher. If the whole issue was that people are not having the right intentions when it comes to doing Yibum. What we're better than they were, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 80 years ago, 200 years ago. We're better than that. We're not better than that now. Meikaras. So he explains. Meikaras avrila kabashol. Originally, when they said it's preferable to do chalitza, they held like Abba Shaul. Ubesof savrila Rabbanan. But now we're going with the opinion of Rabbanan. So this the Tanya. The Gemara brings a braita. This braita is a very important braita that this whole machloka revolves around. Abba Shaul Omer hakones et yevimto leshum noi leshum ishut leshum davar acher. Abba Shaul says somebody who has any other type of motivation besides doing the mitzvah when he's doing Yibum. He takes his Yevamot in, he takes his sister-in-law in for the because of beauty or because of a relationship or because of any other reason that's not for doing the mitzvah of Yibum. Ki'ilu pogea be'erva. It's as if he's with an erva. Because keep in mind, this Yevamah was asura on him. The Torah gives a heter for Yibum. So Abba Shaul says that it's if a person's not doing it with the right intentions, you're playing with fire over here. You're playing with somebody who was an erva. It's ki'ilu. It's almost as if he's being involved with an erva. Vekarov ani be'enai liyot avlad mamzer. And he says, to me, it's very close to the child being a mamzer. Meaning the child is not a mamzer because there's a heter for the yibum, but you see that it's so severe in his eyes that she's almost like an erva, and the child is almost like a mamzer if he doesn't have the right intention for the mitzvah. That's Abba Shaul's opinion. That's why they said no, chalitza is better. Chachamim argue with Abba Shaul, and they say ki'ilu. They say Yevama yavo alea mikol makom. The Torah says Yevama, her brother-in-law. The guy is with the Yevama, he's with the lady. He comes on her, they have bia, mikol makom, regardless of what his intention is. It doesn't matter if he's not thinking to do for the mitzvah and he has other intentions. Doesn't matter. He still does yibum. So what do you mean her intentions? Whether or not she wants to do yibum? Okay, so really, if a man does yibum even against her will, if he has bia, it's done. Meaning, it's
by force.
We're gonna learn that. We're gonna learn that later. Yeah, there's a big machlok at Rashi and Tosfot here. If she says I'm not interested, do we push her? So according to Rashi, if she says I'm not interested and she has some reason for it, that's a sensical reason, then we force the guy to give chalitza. We can force him to give it. According to Rabbeinu Tam, we can't force him to give chalitza, but we can trick him into giving chalitza. Meaning we could say like, listen, we'll give you $500 if you give chalitza, and then he does it. So you can trick him, but you can't force him. But if a person does it, the bia is kone. It's in terms of the kinyan, she doesn't need a kiddushin. It's not like a regular lady that you walk up and you first need to give kiddushin and she has to agree, and then there needs to be chuppah. Yibum is completely different. The kiddushin is pre-existing. Basically, what the yavam is doing.
The bia completed.
The bia, yeah, because what he's doing is by doing bia, he's like filling the shoes of the brother that died. He's taking over for him. He gets his nachala, he gets his portion, he gets his family. He's like stepping into those shoes.
But the brother tries to do it any way that he could to do bia.
What do you mean?
Even by force.
So if he does, so that's later on. We're gonna get to daf samech or whatever later.
Okay.
6th parak. Okay. So the this is machloket, big machloket chachamim and Abba Shaul, and big machloket in halacha also. Machloket rishonim, the Rif paskins like chachamim that yibum is you do mikol makom. Either way, you don't have to have the right intentions. You still could do yibum. And Rabbeinu Tam paskins like Abba Shaul The Rama brings down in halacha like Abba Shaul that we don't do yibum nowadays. We do chalitza. By Sfaradim, it's not as clear. A lot of discussion. Okay. So says the Gemara, Man Tana lahad Tana Rabbanan. Who is the Tana of the following Braita? Who authored the following Braita? It says Yevamot yavo aleha mitzvah. It says okay, so let's try to get through this. So Yevamot yavo aleha mitzvah. It says the Braita is a little bit cryptic. It says Yevamot yavo aleha, her yavam comes on her, the man comes on her. It's a mitzvah. Shebetchila hayta alav bichlal heter. Originally she was muteret. Nesra, she became asura. V'chazra v'hutra. Then she became muteret again. So yachol tachzor lehetera harishon. I might think that she goes back to her original heter. Talmud lamar yevamot yavo alea mitzvah. The Torah tells me it's a mitzvah. So it's saying originally she was muteret, right? A person could go marry her. She married your brother. She became asura. The brother died. She became muteret. I might have thought she was muteret the same way she originally was. We say no, mitzvah. So what does this mean? Who's the author? So the Gemara is going to work it out both ways. Man Tana, Amar Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Abba Shaul. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi says this is going like Abba Shaul. V'achi kamar, Yevamot yavo alea mitzvah. First is saying that Shebet chila hayta alav bichlal heter. Originally, this lady was muteret. She was a regular lady that you could have gone and been mekadesh. Ratzah l'shem noi konsa, ratzah l'shem yishut konsa. You could marry her because she's beautiful. You could have whatever kavanah you want. It doesn't matter. She's muteret. She's a lady. You could give her kiddushin. Konsa, once she married your brother Nesra, she became asura. Chazra vehutra. Then when it says that she becomes muteret again, yachol tachzor l'terarishon, I might have thought that she goes back to being muteret the same way she originally was, and you could do the yibum for the purpose of beauty or other things. Talmud lomar Yevamot yavo alea mitzvah. Whenever the pasuk says no Yevamot yavo alea, that your intention has to be mitzvah. That's the way Abba Shaul learns. Rav Amar afilu tema Rabbanan. Rava says no, I could make this Braita fit with Rabbanan also. V'achi kamar Yevamot yavo alea mitzvah. Yevamot yavo alea teaches me it's a mitzvah, meaning shebet chila hayta bechlal heter. Originally, she was muteret. You could have gone and married her. Ratzah konsa, ratzah ena konsa. You could choose to marry her. You could choose not to marry her. Nesra, she became asura. Chazra v'hutra. Then she becomes muteret again. Yachol tachzor lehetera rishon. Ratzah konsa, ratzah ena konsa. I might have thought that now that there's yibum, okay, so she goes back to her original heter. So if you want to marry her, you can. If you don't want to marry her, you don't have to. So the Gemara says, ratzah ena konsa ha'agidabe. What do you mean? If you don't want to marry her, you don't have to. She needs to be freed. She's connected. So Gemara says no. She's going to go out with nothing. At this point, I might think, okay, if he wants, he could do chalitza. If he wants, he could do yibum. It's teaching me that it's a mitzvah. So yeah, it's a mitzvah. So Ema Reisha, maybe we'll stop here. We'll go over this last part tomorrow. Because it continues on to the next daf.